Hi, it's Chris with Implied Music. Writing a good melody can be hard. Let's say you've got a chord progression you like, but you want to top line it somehow. Well, we can use that trick of compression and expansion, trick that we've been talking about, it'll be here somewhere, to write a melody, basically creating dissonant tones that give us emotional power, that push us forward through the melody. Let's take a look at it today. This is something jazz musicians and great composers from the orchestral period, good songwriters, do all the time. Over on the right here, you can see my chord progression. It's this stack of chords: C, E, A minor, F. Well, I've included the notes that are in the chord. A C chord is C, E, G, etc. Now, we know that those notes in a melody will go great with the chord, but there are tons of other scale tones that are possible, available to us. And those other scale tones will be dissonant. It turns out that those dissonant tones are super useful because they compress the emotional feeling of the melody until we resolve. Take a look at this little thing that I've written, then we're going to kind of break it down. All right, here's my little melody. Well, it feels a little bit like half a melody, doesn't it? And it's not going to win any of us any awards. Notice how it's all stepwise motion. I've made it, I would say, easy to sing. Well, what powers that melody is the use of dissonant tones on the downbeat, resolving to a chord tone. Let's take everything sort of one step at a time. It's not a terribly hard idea, really. The first melodic moment is the D going up to the E. Well, if you play a C chord and a D, that D is just not resolved. And what we've done, instead of falling down, which is what your ear sort of expects, is to go up. And let's continue that travel up. Now it's time for an E chord, and I'm going to play an F against it. It's a fairly strong dissonance. There's the E chord. Wow, that F against the E chord is quite bright. And then it falls down again to E. Time for an A minor chord. I'm here now, and there's my chord tone. A D, D against A minor, again, a dissonant tone that resolves to a chord tone. Now it's time for F minor 6. We talked about what a great surprise chord that is. And my F minor 6 chord, the melody is a G, which falls down to F. In these two measures here, from measure 2 to measure 4, we've already used that trick 4 times. Dissonant, release, dissonant, release, dissonant, release, dissonant, release. This E goes, and now I'm back doing the chord cycle again. This is a short cycle. It's only 2 measures long. This long E is consonant to the C and the E major chord. And the C is consonant to both. Now I'm going to use exactly the same trick, just starting at a different location. I'm at measure 6, and the chord is C, and the melodic tone is B. And it goes up to the C. Now it's time for an E chord, and the melodic tone, I'll repeat the C, which is dissonant to E. And of course it falls down. Now it's time for an A minor chord. The melodic tone D is dissonant to the A minor chord. And it's time for the sort of beautiful moment here. D, E, skip up. So that's the kind of only really kind of big moment in this melody. The E and the D feel like they belong with the F minor 6 chord, don't they? The G sounds great against the C chord, but it's very spicy against the E chord. Very spicy. It's the highest note. It's kind of away from the voicing, and so it's somehow acceptable. And then we land here on this E, and that E just sort of sits there. And I love how the E sits there against both the A minor and then against the F minor 6. This is a really kind of thrilling moment for me. Tension, release, tension, release, tension, release. A launch to a consonant tone, weirdly dissonant, and then kind of dissonant. Sort of a beautiful effect, isn't it? I've used compression and expansion, dissonant melodic tones on strong beats that push to resolutions to create a propulsive melody. Now, if you've been sort of thinking about it as I go, you've probably noticed one last thing, and it's sort of the last thing I want to say. In my chord progression, I've got a chord C that's in the C chord, and then a chord E, which is not in my home scale of C. The G sharp is outside the scale, and I'm not using that G sharp in the melody anywhere. But E is the 5 of A minor. There's something really satisfying about that. And then the turnaround to the F minor 6 chord brings that same note. It was G sharp, and now I'm thinking about it as A flat. This tone here, G sharp, is the same tone that appears there, A flat. It's just spelled differently. F minor, 6, E major. The two chords are very interesting side by side. F minor 6, E. I've used diatonic tones in my melody. I've used only notes from the C major scale, and that actually increases the poignancy of the melody because the dissonant tone is still relating back to the home scale. Well, listen, let's, with the knowledge that we just acquired, go through it one more time and listen to the pushing quality of those compacted dissonant notes. They're like leading tones, although we really can't call them leading tones. There's dissonant tones on a downbeat that push to a chord tone. It's a great effect. Well, hope this has been useful. As always, like, subscribe to the channel. Come back and visit us. There's a big backlog of things to talk about and look at. If you feel a little bit confused about some of the things we've talked about, you'll find explanations other places on this channel. I think we're at 400 videos now, maybe more, on the On Music playlist. That's a lot of... No, I didn't know I knew that much. What a surprise. I'll see you next time.